Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله تعالى وإن خير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وإن كل بدعة ضلالة وإن كل ضلالة في النار أعاذنا الله منها وإياكم. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote upon us a month to fast. It became so close to our hearts that we often jump to the programs that we do during the month of Ramadan and sometimes skip over what's behind it, what's behind that order. And today, with whatever time is available to us, I would like to remind myself and my brothers and my sisters on few issues related to the month of Ramadan. Not from a fiqhi point of view, which inshallah all of us should do, especially before we get into the fasting days of Ramadan. So we learn all the ins and outs, the do's and the don'ts, what makes our fasting valid, what makes it invalid. Scholars and imams, books online, YouTube, you could find all that. And please do so with your families. Review it. If you did not have the opportunity to fast around the year, this month is a wake-up time so that we could go over that. And don't tell yourself we all know about it. You'll be surprised how many of us do forget some small details about that great sha'ira of Islam. As we all know, the famous hadith that describe to us what makes us Muslims. Al-Islamu an tashhada an la ilaha illallah. You know, when a man who came and asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, dressed in white, had no dust on him, a long hadith. And he sat down, he put his knees touching the knees of the Prophet, and he asked him, "Akhbirni, tell me about this, tell me about that." And then when he departed, he asked the companions, "Do you know who?" You know, the long hadith, and it ended up, Jibreel, "Ja'a yu'allimukum deenakum." This is Jibreel came to teach you your deen, your religion. So the hadith, or part of it, what is Islam? What makes a person a Muslim? As someone who submits to the will of God, because that's what Islam is. أن تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله. To bear witness, to declare that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that Muhammad is his messenger. The one we follow, the one we copy, the one we mimic. So that's the first one. Work of the tongue with yaqeen in the heart. And then to establish prayer. وأن تقيم الصلاة. And then to pay the zakah. وتؤتي الزكاة. And then تصوم Ramadan, to fast the month of Ramadan. And then go to Hajj once in your lifetime if you find a way to do it. That's what makes a Muslim individual a Muslim. But if you think about it for a second, these 5 pillars have one single item that is different than the other 4. And that is fasting. Let me tell you why. Even though you could declare with your mouth that you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you follow the messenger, but we've seen it, and sometimes we see the actions where people declare someone else as the one who dictates. Whether it is a leader in their country or in their community, or whether it is something they like or they admire. And that thing ends up to be the one that dictates how his life goes about. Some people may end up worshipping what they like. Some may end up mimicking or copying some kind of a role model that either was forced upon them or beautified, whether they like it or not. So the first declaration, as important as it is, some people, while may claim they are Muslims, they still deviate. And some claim we're not Muslim, we're following X or Y or Z. We could even see it during elections. In some countries, in some places, people will say, you know what, you're the leader, you tell us go right, we'll go right. Even if Islam says other way, we'll follow you. It could be tribal issue. The second one, the prayer. To establish prayer. Also philosophically speaking, this time we take every day 5 times to dedicate. Some people try to deviate from. Some people mix something with it. Some people, even though they may not be Muslim, they talk about meditation or dedication to a specific cause. Whether it's within humanity or outside. Some people, even in the way we say it in English, they may say a statement, sometimes we copy, wrongly or rightly, we say, he does this religiously, even though it may have nothing to do with religion. Like waking up at certain time and drinking a cup of coffee. It could be a cup of coffee. It could be described, oh, he does that religiously every day. But guess what? Some people end up in their life creating a way of worship they may not recognize that it is, but as a matter of fact, they are worshiping something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be addiction, God forbid, to drug or wine, or other things that people cannot let on the side. And I don't want to make it a big philosophical discussion, but how often did you see in your own life yourself or your brothers or your kids who would leave the prayer aside and watch a match of a soccer that could go for forever, and I'll pray later? Realistically, that person was praying to something else for that moment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all. Paying zakah, the third. Some people may be so stingy, not in donations even, But even in zakah, that 2.5% may or may not have been calculated, yet they may be ready to pay not 100, not 200, maybe 500, maybe thousands to have, and forgive me, a marriage party. They could be arguing with an imam on how they could save $1 here and there from the zakat fund, but when it comes to a party, they could. Well, even though it's not wrong. But I hope you see the point I'm trying to drive here, is that when it comes to certain things we love, is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first or is last? Realistically speaking. And I don't want to take it further, but let me say, when it comes, say for example, to build the masjid, inshallah we're on the verge of starting it. And let everyone answer this question. How much money are we, myself included, ready to set aside for rent or mortgage for my own home? And how much am I ready to set aside for the house of Allah? And then you get my point. Let me leave fasting for a second and move on to Hajj. Some people put in their life specific trip, they do it regularly. Whether to a specific place or to another, I don't want to say a shrine, but a religious or tourism or whatever you want to call it. While Hajj should be done at least once, if you can, find a way to it. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow us all the opportunity to do that. Ameen. So out of the 5 pillars, declaring with your mouth who you worship and who you follow. Regularly on a daily basis doing something that tells you are a person who prays to the God. Paying from your money to purify your wealth, and going to Hajj. All 4 of them could be done, except Siyam cannot be done to anyone else. You will never find a person on earth who would say, I'm fasting because I want to get closer to this politician. Or I'm fasting because I want to, whatever you want to put after that statement. And that brings us to a clear understanding why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a hadith said, كُلُّ عَمَلِ ابْنِ آدَمَ لَهُ إِلَّا الصِّيَامِ. Every work the son of Adam, humans do, belongs to you. You could come on the day of judgment, I prayed, I did this, and you're going to get the reward for it. It's known that has the right reward for it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِلَّا الصِّيَامِ, except fasting, إِنَّهُ لِي, it's mine. Allah is speaking. وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Because no one on earth would be able to validate what you are going to go through during the month of Ramadan except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I could be sneaking inside my office drinking a cup of water and no one knows. No one would be able to see. So the month of Ramadan is a program that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put for us to change the soul, the mind before the body. And we often pay attention on those issues of what do I eat and what don't I eat and did I break my fast, even though it's valid. But it starts with the intention. Take for example the hadith when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about raising voices, for example. He tied it with fasting. إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدِكُمْ, if it's written upon one of you to be fasting on one day, فَلَا يَرْفُثُ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَلَا يَصْخَبْ فَإِنْ شَاتَمَهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي امْرُؤٌ صَائِمٌ. If it was written upon you for a day to be fasting, whether it's Ramadan or outside, do not do filthy talk. Do not raise your voice. Do not make noises. If people tackled you to engage you in an argument or swear at you, do not engage with them. Say, I am a fasting person. Inni sa'im. 30 days where I tell some of our youth, don't Don't keep telling me, am I allowed to do this in Ramadan? Am I not allowed to do this in Ramadan? The issue is you as an individual. You stood up and you declared to yourself, oh Allah, I am strong enough to do what you asked me, and I'm gonna prove it to myself. You said I'm gonna stop eating at 5:22 in the morning, 5:22 it's over. I'm in charge. No more smoking. If I'm smoking, I take alhamdulillah, I'm not a smoker, but speak to a person who smokes. They could control themselves from morning until sunset. Some of them, may Allah forgive them. The moment Maghrib time is, the first thing they go, but they were able to control themselves all that time. 30 days of control. Declaring yourself, as Allah said in the beginning, you're in charge. And that's why Allah is fair. Allah is not going to put you in a circumstance where you cannot defend you. None of us is going to come on the day of judgment and say, oh Allah, you put me through circumstances I cannot win, I cannot succeed, and therefore, God forbid, you're not fair. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested us with something, He gave us the tools, the power, and how to do it. And Ramadan is nothing more, nothing less than a boot camp that we individually accepted to take, to prove to ourselves, no one else. Often I hear brothers say, oh, this brother doesn't stay for 20 rak'ah for Taraweeh. Well, guess what? We could argue about, I want everyone to come to Taraweeh. But during the time of the Messenger, people were praying all over the place. They were joined after because of a technical reason, making it more synchronized, people who know how to read the Quran and so forth and so on. But if someone left the Taraweeh, doesn't mean he did not do the proper thing in Ramadan. That's the least we ask about. So sometimes as a community we lose focus. When we see someone in Ramadan coming to catch the Taraweeh prayer and driving so haphazardly, parking anywhere, blocking some people, did that person really understood what is he coming for? Even now for the prayer. The Messenger ﷺ told us, when you come for the prayer, come with respect, walking slowly. If you missed, you always make up. So we have many of our brothers, may Allah bless them, they come the last minute and they park all over the place. They don't want to miss the prayer. Guess what? You did not plan for it, because subconsciously may or may not have been the number one on your priority list. And that's a question we need to ask we don't go out and say, oh, you don't have priority, you don't know what you're doing. That's not our role. But as a Muslim individual, especially parents, our kids are copying us. They know what is the priority. If mom or dad skipped the prayer because they wanted to watch something on the TV, be my guest telling your son or daughter later on what is a priority in your life. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about Friday prayer, leave everything, leave all the trades and come for the prayer, and then spread on across earth and do your business. If you manage that without screaming, without shouting, your priorities are clear. Even if our kids are not guided properly, they will always remember, my dad used to do this. His priorities were clear. They were aligned with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. So as we come to Ramadan, and I know alhamdulillah in the masjid there will be iftar, there will be taraweeh, they're working hard, that's their responsibility as a planning committee. But us as individuals, Ramadan is coming up, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all reach it. What did we plan for Ramadan? What kind of intention do we have? How much of the Quran we're gonna read and understand? Read, understand, and then apply. Because the companions of the Messenger ﷺ, even though it's beautiful and we should do it in reading the Quran and finishing the khitmah and so forth and so on, the companions used to say, we used to come to the Messenger ﷺ, learn a verse or two, comprehend them, go, apply them, and then come back for more. Because Allah is talking to us in that month when we sit down or stand up and hear the Quran being read. So it goes back to the intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Works are judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first by the intention. First by the intention. And yes, I know we're gonna write or post on the board or on the wall a statement that says what is the proper way to say the niyyah. What is the intention? I'm fasting today and tomorrow, and we could do that. But deep in our hearts, what do we have in our intentions for the month of Ramadan, those 30 days, to do with ourselves and with our family, with the Quran and with our neighborhood? That's the question that we all need to ask before we hit the first day of Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in forgiveness. Ask Him, Innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. So brothers and sisters, as a minority living in the West, we always have to adapt and change to protect ourselves and our families, and the masjid is a major part in that. If you're among those who are attending here on a regular Friday, Ramadan is the month where you bring the family to the masjid. And Ramadan is the month where you show the priority to your children, where you commit to a certain attitude on how you behave in and outside the masjid. Few days ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, little of argument with one brothers on smoking on campus. End of story. Now we posted some sign. Please respect the fact that we don't smoke on campus here, around the campus and the school. But in your mind, if you think about what other things you should not do, or you should do, from coming on time, parking properly, helping with the funds that the masjid needs, lowering your voice, standing in line, being attentive, asking question the right person, all these things should be part of our intention to start with. And if we go in with the intention, then inshallah no one is going to fight you. But if we go in with the intention, even if someone is cursing and fighting me, I'm going to say I'm fasting. I'm going to say I'm in charge. I'm responsible for my action. And I'm responsible for what I'm going to do. I think at that time we would be successful, inshallah. With few minutes left, as you just heard, I was asked to make dua for those who passed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen those who are suffering. We know in our community we had few cases where either people passed away or they're in the hospital. And that reminds us with the dua that some of the companions and those who came after them used to do or say, and we inherited that in many books. They used to spend 6 months after Ramadan asking Allah to accept. These are people who were close to the messenger. These are people who had the first-hand interaction with the role model for us, and they were asking Allah to accept. So how about us? And then the other part or the other half of the year, they ask Allah to make them reach Ramadan. And guess what? Last week, few of our own families did not make it. Few more days, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us go through Ramadan and get out of forgiven. Allahumma ameen. I'm also going to take this opportunity to remind everyone that alhamdulillah, this community is generous enough to host a school on the same land that the masjid exists. And since COVID until now, Ramadan is moving through the academic year. At some time it was during the summer, and now it moved in. And as it moves in, anything we do here as people coming to the prayer will reflect immediately next morning on the students who are our children. Whether it's an empty bottle of water, whether it's dirt, whether it's the bathroom, please, for God's sake, remember that anything you do, it's not about a custodian who has to clean, it's about a student who is going to see what this community, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, did overnight. So as you come and enjoy the cleanliness of the place that was prepared for you by hardworking individual, please help them to make it and leave it as such. Not only for them to make their life easier, because they're also working around cleaning campus, but also for the students who are coming the next morning, knowing that it's my community who was here. If my community did not respect the property that is put together, then why should I? We spoke about the traffic. I want to remind also, I'm not sure if you heard that announcement, the city is doing some construction on 106. Next 2 weeks, there will be some closures on 106 coming from the north side. One of the weeks it will be partial, the other week will be full. It's from 9 in the evening till 5 in the morning to avoid the jam of the traffic during the daytime. So if you're coming to the Taraweeh, give yourself some time, which is the first week of Ramadan. No, I'm sorry, it starts then not next week, the week after, which is the first week of Ramadan, and then the week after that. So there will be time where it will be partially closed, and there will be time where it will be fully closed. So if you're coming from the north side, you may have to do a detour. If you're leaving the masjid, please give yourself some time. Leave in a decent manner so that we don't bother the neighbors at 10 or 11 or 12 midnight. And the last, before I make the dua, Alhamdulillah, in the school, as we increase the enrollment, we're looking for staff and teachers for next year. If you know of yourself or someone who has the capacity to get certified or has a bachelor degree, please tell them to stop by. We're looking for energized individuals who could be taking the challenge of helping us raise our children in the academy with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We finished accreditation last year, and those who are in the school are graduating with scholarships to best colleges out there. If you want to be part of that success, please stop by the office and let us know. I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in supplication, say Ameen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت لا ملجأ ولا منجا منك إلا إليك. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will make us all reach Ramadan and get out of it forgiven. Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us and our children among the best citizens for our country. Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us and our children among the best neighbors for their neighborhood. Allahumma ameen. وقوموا إلى صلاتكم يغفر لكم ذنوبكم.